Okay, here we are, Dean Arnold's podcast. It is July 17th. Yesterday I said it was June 16th. That was a mistake. I need to correct that in the records. It was July 16th yesterday. Today it's July 17th. July 17th, year 2026. Or maybe not. Maybe it's year 2027. I might have misspoke, or 2028. July 17th is a big day in the history of civilization, the history of Christianity, the history of the world, and the things that really matter. And we're going to talk about it today. July 17th is the day that the royal family of Russia was murdered. There they are. That's the royal family of Russia, and that's probably 1917, 1916. I'm not sure. They were killed in 1918, I believe, by the Bolsheviks, the bloody, atheistic, awful, satanic Bolsheviks, all killed same day. We'll talk about it. 4 girls, 1 son, happily married couple, godly, Christ-fearing couple, brutally murdered. Well, we're going to talk about that today. Today's the anniversary of that. It happened on July 17th. Okay. I'm running for Congress. Vote for me. Give to my campaign at DeanArnoldForCongress.com. Like, share, and subscribe. Comments and questions appreciated and needed. Bring them. I'm bringing sanity to an insane world, an insane world that thinks that not that big a deal that we just murdered a royal family. Hey, why not? Hey, we murdered the Ayatollah. We murdered Soleimani. He deserved it. Let's go ahead and murder the royal family because someone told us that they aren't any good and we shouldn't like them. Insane world. I'm bringing sanity. July 17th, we said that. And let's get into the scripture of the day, which, it's kind of a big deal now that Jay Dyer explained to us that all of civilization was basically shaped by the lectionary, which is what we do every day. All right, I just brought it up a little longer than I was hoping to. All right, we're going to get into some stuff here. This is pretty intense. Can you handle it? I don't know. I'm sure I can handle it, but 1 Corinthians chapter 7, second verse here, verse 36. But if any man thinks he is behaving improperly toward his virgin, if she is past the flower of youth, and thus it must be, let him do what he wishes. He does not sin. Let them marry. So what's going on here? He's talking to fathers. His virgin is his daughter. He's got a virgin daughter. And Paul's saying, hey, if she's past the flower of youth, if she's past puberty, it's not a sin if you let her get married. Because in the previous passage, which we discussed yesterday, Paul said it's better not to be married. So there may be a lot of devout fathers out there who thought, well, maybe the best thing I can do is just not let my daughter get married. This is back in the day when fathers made the decisions on when and how and who you married. No commands in here from Paul saying don't do it that way. Verse 38, so then he who gives her in marriage does well, but he who does not give her in marriage does better. So he's not saying you can't withhold, but he's just saying, it's okay if you let your daughter get married. Verse 36, look at this just a little bit here. This might not be that big of a deal, but if any man thinks he's behaving I hate that, sorry. But if any man thinks he is behaving improperly toward his virgin, if she is past the flower of youth, and thus it must be, in other words, she's getting hot, and she needs to get married because there's temptation abounding. Let him do what he wishes. He does not sin. Let them marry. We're getting into a day where our civilization might be taken over by Muslims, and it's certainly happening in Europe. And we may find ourselves in a situation where we'd kind of like some authority figure like Paul to say to the authority figures out there, hey, these young girls who haven't passed puberty yet, don't give them over in marriage. Wait until they pass the flower of their youth and then give them into marriage. Because the Muslims, including Muhammad, apparently 8, 9, 10 years old, a lot of insanity out there. So thank God, Paul's saying, hey, wait until she's past the flower of her youth. Now, the other thing I want to talk about in this passage, there's an implication here that we're doing the old school thing, which is fathers with the assistance of brothers kind of watching out as watchdogs, protect the woman, the daughter, the beloved virgin, keep her pure, and then to figure out who she's going to marry right after she passes puberty. I guess they call it arranged marriage. It wasn't as crazy as you think. I think they would get the potential parties together and let them court a little bit and see if they had chemistry, and if both were liked the idea, then they made it happen. It wasn't necessarily a forced thing to marry some kind of ogre. But yes, Paul does not say anything about how I don't do this thing where the father decides, the woman decides. It's all about the woman and her free choice. Well, that's not how they did it in the old day. And I think it worked out a lot better back then. I've talked to a lot of women who wish they'd have gotten into an arranged marriage, because after 3 or 4 divorces and a couple of abortions, it's been really bad. We take our young daughters now, 11, 12, 13, 14, they pass puberty, and we just kind of sling them into the jungle, throw them into public school. All these barbarians out there, after your daughter, and they're going to win. The daughter doesn't have the tools or the makeup to win that battle. And they get thrown to the dogs, and next thing you know, they're having to deal with a chopped up baby the rest of their life. What we're doing right now is not working. The insanity is not working. So we just need to hearken back onto this thing. Now, let me just tell you, the psyop against a daughter looking to her father for who she's going to marry, it's been a long, long psyop. You think 100 years is a long time? Try 400 or 500 years. The first novel is 1605, Cervantes. The Man from La Mancha is the movie that made it famous. It's Don Quixote, tilting at windmills. Well, a big part of that whole storyline is that there's a daughter who wants to, her father has her marrying some other guy because he's got some money and it's going to work out pretty well, and it's probably in her best interest. But she has love, and she's decided she wants to marry somebody else because she's in love. And of course, the feelings of love could never be misleading or, betraying, whatever. How long does it last? About a year before you go from love to hate. Anyway, in the novel and in the movie, she gets the blessing from Don Quixote, I think, to follow the love of her heart and not the best wishes of her father. 1605, the first novel ever. So it's been a long psyop. Hey, I know this is a radical idea, but I'm into radical ideas, especially if they're traditional, because the traditional is now radical. But if you think this is nuts, I just want to go back to what I said before. We got to do something different, because what we're doing right now is horrible. It's just a bloody mess. We got to do something different. Pray about it. How do we get there? I don't know. But there you have it, 1 Corinthians 7. Gospel of the day. Matthew 15. Jesus departed from there, skirted the Sea of Galilee, went up on a mountain, sat there. Then great multitudes came to him, having with them the lame, blind, mute, maimed, and many others, and they laid them at their feet, and Jesus healed them, and they marveled. Okay, only thing I want to say about this is sometimes you get to think, there's a big story in the Gospels about a lame man that was healed. There's a big story or two about a blind man that was healed. And in the Orthodox Church, we have like feast days around that. And, we really focus on these very significant accounts of a blind man being healed and a lame man being healed. But the reality is there were a ton of them. And this passage says the multitudes came bringing all kinds of lame and mute and maimed and blind and laid them at Jesus' feet, and he healed them. So Jesus was just healing blind and lame and all kinds of other people all the time and casting out demons and everything. Pharisees, they were not happy about this because this guy was also preaching peace, and they wanted to kick the Romans' ass and destroy them. So I don't care if this guy's doing miracles and all this kind of stuff. This guy's preaching peace, and we got to get rid of him. And so they were plotting to kill him for a long time. And so when it finally came to like Lazarus getting raised from the dead, they're like, we got to go kill this guy now before everybody starts following him. We got to kill Lazarus too. And they're a pretty committed bunch, and they did what they set out to do. And Jesus let them kill him. You know the rest of the story. But man, some hard-headed, stubborn dudes. And they're hard-headed and stubborn today. All right, saint of the day. There is a Saint Marina I'm going to try to mention briefly, because also the saint of the day is on the church calendar is the royal family. And we'll spend most of our time on that. Great martyr Marina of Antioch. I believe she's in the 3rd century, but she was godly from an infant. And she decided to renounce worldly temptations and to be a virgin. Does that sound familiar? We've been talking about that in 1 Corinthians quite a bit. She decided she would never marry. And despite the fact that she attracted the attention of men, she'd become the bride of Christ. Well, the head dog in town, the governor, I guess, he decided he wanted her because she was attractive. And she said no. And so he got mad. We've heard that story here again and again. She gave up fame and fortune. And the devil himself was very mad at this woman. She was just too much of a testimony. So he came at her and tempted her with all kinds of worldly goods, and she said no. So that got the devil mad, and so the devil came now in the form of a giant serpent and swallowed her up. And it says that she prayed in its belly and she got spit out, made the sign of the cross. That tore the dragon apart. Satan's mad again, comes at her a 3rd time, gets her to be tempted again. And she took a copper hammer lying in the corner and grabbed it and began to beat Satan on the head with it, holding him by the horns. "Depart from me, O lawless one," she said. After that, the heavens opened. Her body was healed because she had been tortured the day before. I'll kind of scroll through this, but what happens next is the governor, he decides he's just going to kill her. He's done with this virgin martyr. And as she's about to get killed, a snow white dove descended upon the girl with a golden crown on it in its beak, and she shone with a great light. And the astonished crowd began to praise God and declared themselves to be Christians. And so the governor ordered everyone to be executed. 15,000 people were executed by the governor because they confessed Christ, seeing the great virgin bride of Christ, Marina, boldly confess Christ unto death. So another great martyr of our day. Thank God for her. And let's go ahead and move on to, what have we done? Feasts and Saints, Lives of the Saints. Let's go down to the Royal Passion. Here we go. Royal Passion Bearers, Tsar Nicholas, Tsaritsa Alexandra, Tsarevich Alexei, Grand Duchesses Olga, Tatiana, Maria, Anastasia. All right. So, man, where to start? Like, just all sorts of places we could start, aren't there? But let's start with Tsar Nicholas. There he is. Tsar Nicholas II. Fantastic man of God, horribly and terribly executed. by godless, atheistic Bolsheviks, majority Jewish. That's a whole nother subject. Their murder was a ritualistic murder with all sorts of cryptic stuff written on the walls, kind of a sacrifice to Satan kind of a thing. But he was a godly guy, and he tried his best to run the empire as best he could. Probably have to do a whole podcast. We probably will, because I got a bunch of guys getting together to talk about the subject of Rasputin. Rasputin was not the evil person that you've been told he was. Lots of propaganda. He was the only person advising Tsar Nicholas not to go to war with the Germans in World War I, which of course destroyed Russia and destroyed lots of people. And the Brits were doing everything they could to get those two to fight, because that way their two biggest enemies are fighting each other. But Rasputin was like keeping Tsar Nicholas from doing it. They finally killed Rasputin, and a couple 3 months later, Russia enters World War I. It devastates Russia. But anyway, he's a godly guy. He's trying his best to do his best by God and by Christ for Russia. The stuff you hear about the pogroms, a lot of misinformation there. You got years and years of propaganda to get past. You do. It's like JFK assassination propaganda. It's really, really big. It's really, really bad. And that's all you've slopped up for 100 years, but it's not the right slop. In fact, the truth is not slop. The truth is liberating, and it will set you free. Godly man, Tsar Nicholas. Here's another picture of him. He's kind of near the front line, trying to lead his troops as best he can. But one thing leads to another. The communists, the Bolsheviks, the godless ones, the haters of Christianity and the Tsar, finally win in 1817. Kerensky movement first in 1817, I think, and then it's taken over by Vladimir Lenin and the Bolsheviks. And they take the royal family and they take them to Ekaterinburg, which is a large Russian city. And so they're staying in exile in Ekaterinburg. They're trying like heck to get to Britain, and Britain won't take them in. You schmucks. I mean, if they'd have taken him in, the family wouldn't have been slaughtered, but Britain wouldn't take him in. And one day, I think it's in the middle of the night, they're all in their pajamas. They say, hey, we're going down to the basement to take a picture or something stupid like that. Anyway, they go down in this room in the basement, and somebody shouts a proclamation of their orders to be executed. They bring out the guns. They shoot him. Nicholas and his wife. Let me show you his wife. I do got a picture of his wife. There, he and his wife. They loved each other very much. Nicholas and his wife are shot and killed immediately, but the girls and the boy are not, and so they got to go over there with bayonets and stab them to death as much as they can until everybody is certainly killed. So let's look at the I guess I got another picture I should show you. There's a picture of the royal family again. Beautiful girls, beautiful young son, lovely Christian family, slaughtered and murdered. All right. I had the saint of the day. Yeah, there it is. Before presenting, remove other media. I can't remove all that other media. I'll just have to read it to you. So they take him down there. They shoot them all. The Tsar's holding his son in his lap. Nicholas and Alexandra died under the hail of bullets, but the children did not die right away. They were stabbed and clubbed with the butts of rifles. Their bodies were taken to an abandoned mine, cut into pieces, then piled in front of the mine. Sulfur and gasoline were poured on the bloody mound and set on fire. When the fire went out 2 days later, whatever remained of the bodies was thrown into the mine, and grenades were tossed into it. Thank you. Then the ground was plowed so that no trace of the disposal of the bodies remained. Well, I think about 10, 15 years ago, they finally went up to those mines, those wells, and they went through them and they did DNA testing. They confirmed that that was the body of the royal family, and all all seven of them, and that was all confirmed. No, Anastasia did not escape. And so that's the tragic murder of the royal family. Perhaps the greatest crime in history. This brutal crime of a bunch of innocent, wonderful, virgin Christian saints being murdered. And yes, they all became saints. They're on the church calendar. You become a saint almost automatically if you're martyred. But they were saints in other ways. For instance, this book right here, and I highly recommend it. An Englishman in the Court of the Tsar. It's by Christina Bennell, but it's about their tutor, English tutor, Charles Sidney Gibbs. Charles Sidney Gibbs, I think, wrote his own book, but this is the better book because it's like a lot of things that are better. It's really good communication. It's well written, well documented. And I was very moved by this book because it shows just how Christian and how dedicated and devout this family was. They did their devotions and their prayers faithfully every day. And in the last year or two of their life, when they're in exile, they don't know what's going to happen. The Tsar is spending a couple hours a day reading the Gospels and the Scriptures to his family. And they take walks together and they try to, get through the hard times. But these are godly people, and their tutor was with them. He tutored them in English. And he was so moved by the royal family and their authentic faith and their pious devotion to Jesus Christ that he became a Christian. And then he went back to England after everything went down, and he became an Orthodox Christian. And then he became a monk. And then he became an abbot of a monastery. So I forget what his abbot name was. You guys can look it up and find it. I suggest you get that book that I just held up. But he became head of a monastery, serious Orthodox Christian, because he was moved by the legitimacy of the Christian faith of Tsar Alexander and his wife and their 5 children. Horribly, brutally, uglily, satanically, ritually murdered. And what did the Christian West do? Nothing. Now, one of the reasons I might not be all that big of a we're at the end of the world kind of a person. I mean, there's many reasons I have that view, but one of them is, God, this seems like the end of the world. If you're going to have the end of the world, it ought to be when a wonderful Christian royal family, maybe the last remaining in the civilized world, gets brutally, satanically, ritually murdered. That's about a good time to wrap it up, wouldn't you think? Well, it's been over 100 years, 110 maybe. And the world hadn't ended yet. So, and there's also views of Russia being the third Rome. So it's like you got Rome itself, and then Rome and Italy implodes, and Constantine starts at the new Rome. In Constantinople, Byzantine now is Istanbul. And that goes for 1,000 years. And then some like to say that the third Rome is Russia, because the Russian Orthodox faith moved from Byzantium to Russia in terms of the power center. So here you got the last czar of the third Rome getting ritualistically and satanically murdered by godless haters who want to take over the world. This seems like a good time to end the world, but it didn't happen. It seemed like a good time to end the world when Jerusalem was completely destroyed in AD 70 and the temple and the whole old covenant system, the old Judaic system. That seems like a good time to end history, but no, we kept going. When Rome in the West imploded Seemed like a good time to end it, but no. Constantine arises, starts a new Rome, calls together all the bishops of the Christian church, which had been persecuted and martyred for 3 centuries. And now we have the Council of Nicaea, and we hammer out the Trinity and everything, all these good things after all these bad things. That'd be a good time to end history. No, we kept going. How about 1000 AD, 1000 years after Christ, maybe 1030 or 1033 after the crucifixion of Christ? That seems like it'd be a pretty good time to wrap it up. Nope, we kept on going. So I think we're going to keep on going, guys, because that was a good time. The murder of the royal family, to wrap it all up. But no, evil has its day, and then righteousness has its day, and we've got to soldier on until Christ thinks it's the right time to wrap up everything. There's more to say, and there's a lot on this subject, and I suggest you get past the all the propaganda and try to learn about who Tsar Nicholas and his family really was, and what really went down between the Russians and the Jews before the Russian Revolution. Alexander Solzhenitsyn's a good one to read. He's got a book called Our 200 Years Together, which has never really been published because he tells the truth about what happened between Russians and Jews during that time. I've read it. I pulled various chapters here and there all from the internet and read it, underline it. I need to take time to go read my notes and do a podcast on that. But yeah, how did I get off on that? Anyway, yeah, we're still going at it, and we've got a future, and righteousness will prevail, as it did in Russia. Boy, it took what, 80 years, and finally, they're made saints on the calendar, and they're lauded by people like Vladimir Putin, and the Bolsheviks are derided, as they should be. But anyway, Barnes Review is a book I can suggest you Google. It does a lot of, what's the word for revisionist history. Gets you a different way of looking at it. E. Michael Jones's book is good. Who else has a good book on the, well, Solzhenitsyn's book is probably the best one. Hard to find. hasn't been published in English yet. Wonder why. But I think you can find it if you work at it. All right, guys. This is an important subject. I'm really thankful that we could venerate the martyrs and saints of Saint Tsar Nicholas and his family. Tragic, horrible, terrible thing, but we're able to remember them today. And they're going to have a good resurrection because they had a darn good shot at life when they were living this life. And they got tragically murdered. It is July 17th, the day they were murdered, 100 or so years ago. I guess the 100th anniversary of that's going to come up in a year or two. That'll be interesting. Like, subscribe, share. I'm bringing sanity to an insane world, and we've got a comment. Believing in the end of the world is like believing in dinosaurs. Well, that's an interesting thought. I don't know really what to make of that comment. I appreciate it. Appreciate the fact that you are commenting, and you probably believe in an end of the world, but I think what you're saying is an imminent end to the world, like next year, next decade, next century. Probably going to be a few centuries, few thousand years. So that's my opinion. I can have my opinion. I might be wrong. But believing in the end of the world is like believing in dinosaurs. I haven't gotten to the I don't believe in dinosaurs thing. I think Candace Owens has talked about dinosaurs being a psyop, and I'd like to see what she has to say. They say that they'll take like one little piece of bone, like one piece of bone about that big, and they'll reconstruct it into a dinosaur. I don't know. I really don't. I don't have a problem believing that there were dinosaurs and they were destroyed in a flood. And so now there's dinosaur bones. I just don't know. podcast for another day if I get more good information on it. But thank you for bringing that thought to our consciousness. Like, subscribe, share. I'm bringing sanity to an insane world. Here we go.
Dean Arnold.